Good morning, YouTubers. So, the last video I posted, I said I was going to share my life story. So, I'm going to start now. I was born March 12th, 1984, 9:09 p.m. I was premature and I weighed like 5 pounds. I was addicted to Xanax. My father wasn't in the picture, so I was being brought up by my stepfather, who was still living, and my mother. My earliest memory is the age of 5. I get woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning from my mother to make a drug run for her. I was so young that I didn't know what I was doing. So I get instructed to take a bag of pills to her friend's house, which was like 2 miles away from my house. I grew up in South Philadelphia on the Italian market. Everybody would know the location from the movie Rocky, when he's running down 9th Street and gets past, I think an Orange it is. Well, I could see that from my window. We lived in a storefront. So I leave the house to go meet her friend, and the stores are opening up. Now, these people were scared of my mother. She was about yay big, but just something in her energy made people fear her. I remember running to go meet her friend, and on my way home having a conversation with God or an angel, which wasn't odd for me. I wasn't clearly being raised by my mother and stepfather. I look at it as I was being raised by heaven. So a voice in my head says, you gotta get home quick. So I run home to find my mother dead on our couch. She wasn't breathing. We had no phone. And here again, that voice told me, run outside until I tell you to stop. So I did. I run out the front door, and there's a police officer on the corner sitting in her car. I'll never forget that lady. I told her that my mom's dead on the couch. She calls for backup. Miss O'Neill, we'll call her Officer O'Neill. This woman did not let me go for the next 12 hours. Now, my mother was brought back to life, and when this happened, it made nobody else want to take me in because they didn't want to deal with the repercussions from my mother when she got out of the hospital. So this lady, the officer, wouldn't let me go. She said, if nobody's going to take this kid, I'll take him in. So after my family catches wind of that, now all of a sudden everybody wants to take me. So I get shipped off to my step-grandmother's house. And it was a completely different life. I remember waking up in the morning, and like I would open my eyes and close them real quick to not know what I've seen around me, and I would always pray that I was not at my mother's house. I was abused very badly there. I don't know if any sexual abuse occurred. If it did, God's protected my memory from that. I can't go into too much detail. I do have a stepbrother, and for his sake, I don't want to talk about the things that took place in the household. Uh, to be respectful. So I get taken to my grandmother's house, and like I said, it's completely different. I'm not forced to starve. I get to have interactions with other kids. At my mother's, I was punished 3 to 6 months at a time for nothing. I think just because she didn't want to worry about me running around South Philly. Um, I'm sorry, it's just playing the video over and over in my head. It still kind of lingers with me. So, everything's good for like the next year and a half. Um, I thought, thank God, because I didn't want to go back with my mother. I knew what I would have been in for. And then one day, as I was headed to daycare, we get in a car accident. My grandfather, my step grandmother, and myself. We were in like an 8-passenger Astro van. Um, I remember a red light, tires screeching, and I didn't have my seatbelt, and I was all the way in the back of the car, the van. When my grandfather hit the brakes, I flew. And I flew and hit my head on the dashboard. My grandmother's leg got stuck. And now I look at it, I don't even know what it got stuck under, but it split her whole leg. And I was going to be forced to go back to my mom's house because my grandmother was going to be in a hospital bed for the next couple of months. And also during the accident, when my grandfather went to go check out, found out that he had cancer and only had a couple of months to live. So I get shipped back to my mother's house, and I was so young I didn't understand what was going on. To me, it was, what did I do wrong? It hurt. I felt like why would you give me back to somebody that just wants to cause me pain? So when I went back, it was like my whole world had shifted again. More abuse. The next memory I have is of that Christmas morning. I had like Superman pajamas on, and I remember waking up, looking at the tree, and I had like about 14 steps to walk down. And somebody came behind me, I'm not going to say who that person was, and pushed me on my right shoulder down the steps. I winded up cutting my face, above here on the lights. That they look like a flower, real sharp edges. We didn't have no rags or anything to put over my face that was gushing blood. So my guardians at the time decided that we're going to wrap a plastic bag over this kid's face. So I couldn't breathe. I remember just like I was being strangled, and I passed out. When I woke up, I did the same thing that I would do at my grandmother's house. Close my eyes real quick, pray that I was not at my mom's. And I could hear my mother and stepfather talking and coming up with a story of how it's going to be okay. I thought I was Superman because I had them pajamas on, and that I thought I could fly, and I attempted to do so. Now at 6.5 years old, I wasn't dumb. There was, the abuse and everything, even though I don't wish it on my own worst enemy, it taught me a lot. So I played into the whole, okay, I thought I was Superman. I knew the truth. And the abuse just got worse and worse and worse. Their drug addiction got worse and worse and worse. And it was hell. Had it not been for my higher power, my God, the Lord, whatever name you want to put on it, I definitely wouldn't have made it this far. Like I said, I don't want to go into everything that happened when I was young. I'll save that for another time. Around 1993, my father, who I had never met in my life, comes back into my world. Because he only had 3 months to live. He was 1988, 4 years after I was born, was shooting drugs in a hotel room in New York. And he was with some woman. Apparently she went first. He went second with the same needle. As soon as he went and injected himself, she looked at him with a grin on her face and said, "I have AIDS." I don't really know what happened after that. I assume it wasn't good, so I never really asked. Now, 93, I'm almost 10 years old, and have the experience of a younger man at that point. I stayed in conscious contact with what was imaginary to everybody else. Angels, aliens, whatever you want to call it. They came to me as angels. When my dad came into my life, I felt like I had found that missing piece. But it was weird because he was my dad, but it wasn't my father, if that makes any sense. That was a title left for God. Same thing with my mother. right before my dad passed away, we had gotten into an argument about, he was cursing a lot. And I just didn't understand why everything had to be a curse word. So I told him, I said, look, I don't, and it was wrong. I mean, I said, I don't ever want to see you again. He said a lot of meaningful stuff that he didn't deserve. And that night, he committed suicide. I still remember making that phone call because every night I would call him for the 3 months that I knew him and say I love you and all that. Good night. And as soon as I called, I could feel, I just felt it, that he was gone. So that was a struggle. I blamed myself for that. And still kind of do today. What's ironic about it is 3 years later, I have, well, an even worse conversation with my mother that was about 2 hours long. I remember having to have my best friend and his girlfriend at the time by my side because nobody talked to my mother how I was about to. After having, it was more of me talking, it wasn't really a conversation. And I let her know everything I had thought about her and about my upbringing. And that I never wanted to speak to her again either. That night, she commits suicide. I didn't find out for almost a month until everybody had went through her stuff and taken what they wanted. So here again, another devastating moment. And at this point, I had gotten really upset with God, upset with the world. I couldn't understand why. If God was by my side, speaking to me of every moment of every day, why he would let me hurt like this again. And I held on to that fear for years. I just wanted to die. So I had attempted to commit suicide myself. I took like 72 ecstasy pills. And I swore that was going to be enough. So did pretty much the doctors and everybody I met after that situation. I remember seeing, it was like a really bad trip that went on for a week before I even found myself in the hospital. I woke up in bright yellow. My liver was at like 11%. And I couldn't believe that I was still here. I remember when I woke up, the nurse going to get the doctor. And when he came in, his jaw dropped because they didn't think I was going to make it back. that's when I was angry at myself for what I thought was doing it wrong. Like, I can't even commit suicide, right? Like, you honestly gotta be kidding me. But I also looked at it as God spared me, and there was a reason for all of this that was going on. You know, and it's easy to say that now, looking back on it, but it wasn't easy why it was going on. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'll pick it back up. I'm about 18 when the overdose occurred. What will be left now is my actual conscious awakening. When I knew something bigger than me was going on, and that there was a plan in place. I'm not sure how this video is going to be. I tried to be respectful of the people still alive